my soul rest in your embrace, for I am yours.
The body of information available to us on how to do relationships well is so robust that many people refer to it as the science of love. The problem is that if your relationships are anything like mine, they don't always resemble a neat 1 + 1 = 2 equation. And on some days, you might actually relate more to the chaos theory in mathematics. This theory explains that systems are incredibly sensitive and that a very small change might make them behave completely differently. And this can certainly be said to be true of what is referred to as our relational systems. But if we look at this from a positive perspective, it also means that a small change can tweak a system towards great improvement. And today is about a construct which has been proved to strengthen social bonds and relationships, to reduce some of the chaos and bring stability. And it is built like a muscle with regular long-term practice, and it is the concept called humility. In a best-selling book, The Art of Loving, it explains that love is an art that must be developed and practiced by two things: commitment and humility. And in Psalm 25:9, it says that the humble he guides in justice, and the humble he teaches his way. You see, humility often needs to occur before real learning can happen. Now, humility is tricky, and the research on humility has been difficult as scholars have struggled to define it into some kind of measurable construct. Have you heard the saying that if you think you have humility, then you probably don't? There's also another saying that says that if a person has humility, the people around them don't notice that they have it. So what is it? Because we can't grow something unless we actually know what it is and what we've got to work with. When defining humility, it is evident that humility is definitely not thinking badly of ourselves. We know that we are to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, and that's a biblical mandate. And it implies that loving others presumes some kind of self-value and some kind of self-love. One of the best definitions that I have seen is that humility can be defined from two perspectives. One is an internal and the other one an external. So internally, humility is having an accurate view of oneself, a view that comes from value. And externally, humility is a stance that is other-focused rather than self-focused, which is a great biblical definition. You see, biblically, humility always refers to taking a low stance. What's interesting about humility is that it is most accurately tested and evaluated when it is under great strain. It's a bit like courage. We only know that we have it or that we don't have it when we desperately need it. And we're all prone to what has been identified as the fundamental attribution error. This is an idiosyncrasy that has been identified in people, and it has a tendency to prevent humility. In everyday language, it refers to the inferences that we make about what people do and how they behave. We tend to explain other people's behavior as a result of their character, sometimes negatively, but we explain our own behavior as a result of our circumstances, which creates a slightly double standard. For example, if I have lunch with you and you're late, the fundamental attribution error says that while I'm waiting in the restaurant for you, I'm likely to think like this: sure, this person has no respect or no good time management. But if I'm late, I might be more likely to describe my reasons as somehow circumstantial. The dog ran out the gate, or maybe I needed to make an important phone call. In Philippians 2 verse 3, it says this: do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. And this is how the fundamental attribution error is fixed with this concept called humility, a biblical concept. You see, humility is about thinking highly of others. And we know that from the science of love that one of the differences between being a master of a relationship and a disaster, one of the differences between happy couples and unhappy couples, the difference in marital satisfaction and dissatisfaction, is determined by what they call positive intention framework. You see, humility is the ability to assume the best intent, the positive intent, even when we see the worst behavior, which is actually where the challenge with humility lies. Humility gives the benefit of the doubt. It remembers the good moments and the good parts of people, even when we see their worst parts. In Colossians 3:12 it says, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and with patience." We are dearly loved by God, and this gives us incredible value, a good starting place for humility. And as we learn how to value others internally with our thoughts of kindness, patience, and gentleness, it creates positive intent, which builds humility with consistent practice. Until next time.
Take me deeper than